Hi folks, how are you doing? Today we're gonna analyze a game played by Tigran Petrosian, next one of our world champions in this series. Petrosian beat Botvinnik to become the world champion and defended his world title once against Boris Spassky, but in the next match a couple of years ago, after he lost the title against Spassky, but he was a world champion for a couple of years. And he was a very strong player. Certainly a very positional player. Didn't like to play the most tactical games in the world. He was known for a very deep positional understanding of the game, and he was absolutely brilliant when you had to defense in tough defensive positions. Didn't usually win lots of individual tournaments as he used to draw a lot. But he was a very good, strong match player and team player because he was very reliable. Didn't use almost ever, so he was a very deep strategist. In this game, we're gonna see he's gonna outplay Boris Spassky. This is the World Championship match in 1966. Petrosian is playing with the white pieces, and he plays knight f3, knight f6, g3, g6, c4, bishop g7. This is a kind of closed position. Very suitable for Petrosian, who like to outplay his opponents in positional and maneuvering long games. Bishop g2, short castle, short castle. Now, knight c6 was played, and it is clear that, more or less clear that black will have to play d6 to transposing into kind of a King's Indian defense to have at least some control of the center. He would of course like to play e5 right now, but white is not going to let him. Instead, c5 for instance would have transposed into a symmetrical English, similar. So okay, knight c6, knight c3, d6, d4, a6, and this is already a King's Indian. It seems to be there are lots of games in this line, although I don't really know much about these lines, these complicated King's Indian positions. Here white goes with d5, knight a5. The knight is going to attack some pawns on the queen side. Knight d2 to defend the pawn on c4. I guess b3 is weakening too much the knight on c3. Now it is not protected, and the bishop could be attacking it with some discovered attacks. So knight d2 is very logical, although it moves a piece twice. The position is closed, so it makes lots of sense. Here c5, queen c2, and d5. Okay, the position is getting more or less closed, but well, black is having trying to have control, trying not to lose control in the center, moving lots of pawns here. b3, here bishop g4, knight g4, sorry, opening the way for this bishop on g7, and also having some possibilities with the knight on the king side. And here e4. Okay, so closing the center, establishing a pawn center with e4, d5, c4. I think bishop b2, for instance, was pretty logical as well, putting the bishop on the open diagonal a1, h8. But anyway, e4, and now a more or less natural move, f5, very typical in the King's Indians, I think. Black is trying to break into the center with this f5 move and have maybe some possibilities of attacking white king here on the king side. Now e takes, g takes. Now black has this couple of pawns which seem really strong here, with lots of potential to advance and create some problems here. The bishop on c8 is going to play a major role. The queen can come to the king side easily. And of course the bishop on g7 is one of the best pieces black usually has in this defense, on the big diagonal, on the big dark square diagonal. Here knight d1. The knight is going to be relocated into the king side. And b5, black is playing very ambitiously, trying to attack all over the board. He's going for everything. Really interesting way of playing by Spassky. And here f3. Now we see that the knight on d1 is defending the square e3, and it was the idea, one of the ideas of playing it. Now f3 is trying to chase the knight out of this g4 square, and the knight cannot jump to e3, forking the rook and the queen. And instead of going out of there, Spassky goes with e4, discovering attack on the rook on a1, and then very interesting position. Here Petrosian played bishop b2, very natural and very logical looking move. But it was possible maybe to take on g4, although the position gets very complicated. Bishop would have to take on a1. Now g takes f5, bishop takes f5, knight takes e4, bishop d4 check. The bishop is in a strong position. King h1 is a possibility, but maybe bishop e3, another one. And after exchanging here, for instance, queen e7, black has lots of activity. For instance, the knight seems to be doing nothing, but it's attacking the pawn on c4. The knight on e4 is attacked twice, and it's pinned to against the queen. The queen is attacking the knight and also x-raying the bishop on e3, which is not protected. Well, it's protected only by the knight, but it's attacked also with the bishop on d4. So lots of potential here for black, and really sharp position has arisen. Instead, we saw Petrosian going for a little bit more safe move, more logical maybe. Bishop b2. Spassky took on f3, and now bishop takes f3. The bishop takes on b2, queen takes. Knight e5, the knight centralizes. Not a bad square here at all. Bishop e2, protecting the d3 square and also protecting the pawn on c4, which was under attack with the pawn and both knights here. And here Spassky keeps playing on the king side, ignoring his safety of his own king, and goes for the activity with f4. Of course, there are lots of possibilities here. Black could play in, for instance, with a strange looking move like rook a7, trying to transfer the rook, develop it to the king side fastly through the 7th rank. I don't know, knight e3, trying to improve the knight, queen f6, now threatening to check on f3 and take the queen on b2, queen c2. Now the rook could go to g7. I don't know, now knight g2, the knight would go probably to f4. This is good square for the knight. Knight g6, trying to play this f4 move, and if white gets his king to safety on h1, prophylactic move, f4 with, I don't know, sharp and very uncompromising position, and very interesting for both players. I would probably take black here, and as he's attacking, and it's easier to attack than to defend. It seems black has lots of initiative here, but probably objectively speaking, white is not worse at all. But a very interesting position. Instead of rook a7, the position we saw after bishop e2, Spassky, as we saw, went with f4, another sensible move. G takes f4, and now the point is that he wants to play bishop h3 first, attacking the rook on f1. Was also possible, I think, by the way, taking on f4 with the rook, because this is not losing material. After rook takes f4, queen g5 check, and the rook is going to come back. But Spassky played first bishop h3. And now here it comes Petrosian with a very typical kind of move in him. In fact, this was like a copyright of Petrosian in the 60s, in 70s. He was one of the best players in the world to play these exchange sacrifices, positional exchange sacrifices. He goes ahead and plays knight e3. He sacrifices the exchange in return for lots of advantage and improving his pieces. Now he calculates he says, he argues that the rooks, black rook, aren't going to be better than his light squares, his knights and bishops anyway. Bishop takes on f1. There was another possibility, for instance, taking on f4. Rook takes f4, queen g5 check. It doesn't seem to be that great because rook g4 takes, and after all these exchanges, queen takes, g4 check, king h1, and although black, objectively speaking, might not be in danger, it seems a little bit dangerous, the position. Now Queen is controlling a huge diagonal here, and the rook is threatening to go to the g file, and black king could find himself into a little bit of trouble. But okay, this probably isn't lost, but black must be really careful here. Instead, Spassky went to take on f1 first, right away. Rook takes, and now knight g6. The knight is trying to reubicate, attacking on f4. Bishop g4 is threatening to put the bishop on an enormous square on e6, protected. The knight takes on f4, and the rook takes f4. Yet another exchange sacrifice to control all the board. Now rook takes f4, bishop takes, bishop e6 check. In this case, Spassky, black, has to give back one of the exchanges, some material, and he plays rook f7 because going to f8, queen h8 check, queen takes h7 check, and this seems really bad for black. He's in a big danger of losing the rook on f4 with a double attack on the king and the rook, for instance. So his king is really miserable here. So probably is a correct idea to give some material back, but Petrosian doesn't want the material back right now. He'll rather keep improving his pieces. So 94 he's going to attack the f6 square, also looking to the d6 pawn. Queen h4, and well, it is not protected anymore. The knight is under attack, so Petrosian takes on d6. Now the bishop and the knight are attacking f7, and something which is also very important, and lots of players and lots of people could forget about it. Black has a knight here on a5, but as it may seem, it's a decoration piece, but he in fact has a knight on a5. Probably not doing a great deal, looking absolutely bad here, but okay, he still has a knight. That's one of the reasons that making white having a great advantage here, that his pieces are very coordinated. All the light pieces here are very well placed, while this knight and the rook on a8 aren't doing that much here. Now queen g5 check, king h1, and rook a to a7, protecting the rook. Taking on e3 wasn't the solution to black's position either, because after this, bishop takes. Black cannot take on f7, of course, it's protected. Queen h8 check, king e7, and knight f5 check is going to take the queen, and well, probably be winning the game. So rook a to a7, bishop takes. Now Petrosian takes some material back. Rook takes, and queen h8 check, one of the most spectacular moves played ever by Tigran Petrosian, and one of the most interesting queen sacrifices, or at least the most long-ranged queen sacrifice I ever seen, from b2 to h8, winning the game immediately. A very interesting move. So Spassky resigned here because obviously taking on h8 is forced, and knight takes on f7 with check, king c7, knight takes on g5. White's material advantage is absolutely decisive. He has he's up a pawn on the knight, and this is going to be absolutely winning for white. So at this point, this was the 30th move, or number 30. So Spassky resigned, giving Tigran Petrosian a spectacular and nice win. And well, this was the World Championship match in which the Armenian player held the title, although he would lose it a couple of years ago later against the same Boris Spassky, and then against the same contender. So there we go with this queen h8 check. We're gonna call the day and say thank you for watching the video and hoping you liked it.